Hey guys, it's Danny. Surprise, surprise! This month we have an orchid's favorite for the month of October, which is almost over. So here are some of the orchids that were in bloom this past month that I really enjoy. Some of them already have spotlights, which I will add links to down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it and you get some inspiration for what orchids will be suitable for your collection. Also, why not subscribe? It is free and I post multiple times a week, but if you're feeling a little extra, do consider further supporting the channel by becoming a member, checking out the affiliate links down below, checking out the merch, which by the way, we're gonna have new merch very soon, or using the super thanks option below. So with that intro out of the way, let us start. First orchid we are going to talk about today, I did make a spotlight on it. It is the Cattleya Crystelle Smith variety NR, and this is a first time bloomer for me. I actually purchased it not long ago, a few months ago, so I'm very surprised that the growths it arrived with matured and didn't get any type of setback, and they also bloomed, at least one of them. So this makes me hopeful that this is a very robust and vigorous hybrid. In short, it is a tinier orchid. It's one of those miniature Cattleyas, which don't expect it to be very tiny, but for a Cattleya, even something that is 15 centimeters tall is considered a miniature. It is definitely compact, and I don't think you're gonna have any issues placing it on your windowsill or in an illuminated shelf. It is a very versatile orchid, and the fact that it's a Cattleya makes it very suitable for home conditions, which typically don't have high humidity or too much temperature control and so on. It takes typical Cattleya care, and you're gonna have a tutorial in the description. It has the most lovely colors, this contrast between the yellow lip and lavender petals. It is magical in real life, and it's not very common to see a yellow lip with a darker, let's say, background on orchids. Now, my particular orchid was not fragrant. Some sources who sell this orchid claim it is fragrant, and I did see a comment in my comment section saying theirs were fragrant as well. So I would say it's a variable hybrid. I don't think you should purchase this orchid expecting fragrance, but if you do get some fragrance, that is absolutely fantastic. Kinda sad mine is not scented, but overall it is a gorgeous, beautiful little orchid and I love it to bits. I'm hoping it will continue to bloom even multiple times a year. I will let you know as time goes by, but for now, she was amazing while she was in bloom and the flowers lasted almost 4 weeks. Next up, we have a very old orchid in my collection. This is Tolumnia Jairak Firm Snow Carmine. Now, I shouldn't say very old because some of these orchids are a decade old in my collection. This one is not a decade, but I would say 4 years. I think I have her for that long. It's one of my oldest Tolumnias. And year after year, it blooms. It's one of my favorite Tolumnias, to be fully honest, because it has a very compact flowering. Also, the flowers are absolutely adorable. They have a beautiful spotted pattern on a very light background. Now, sometimes, I guess, depends on the temperature, depends on the time of the year when she is in bloom, I get rather more pinky flowers. Sometimes I get pure white flowers. And if you look on the internet, you will see again that this hybrid is a bit variable. So if you ever purchase this Tolumnia, expect to maybe sometimes have more pinky flowers or a few accents of pink here and there, and maybe sometimes no pink flowers. Let me know in the comments below what type of blooms you get from this orchid if you have it. I personally get mostly white flowers. I'm guessing it might have to do with the high temperatures that usually I experience in my area for most of the year, as anthocyanin pigments are typically more pronounced in cooler seasons. And I do have an orchid in this video to further demonstrate this. But anyway, back to the Snow Carmine. It is a compact orchid. It stays very small. I will be sure to add a tutorial down below in the description. For Tolumnias in general, this one is no different, takes typical Tolumnia care. But if you're not into those Tolumnias which create super massively long flower spikes and you don't have that much space, this is the orchid for you. It has always stayed compact for me. The flower spikes will follow the light. Now I have it under grow lights, so the spike goes up, but I've also had this orchid with the spike to the side, leaning pendant when she was growing in front of a window. In both instances, the flower spike was very compact, very nice, and very tidy, and I do say so myself, very elegant. Next up, we have another veteran here on my channel, Brassocattleya Hoku Gem Sunspots, and again I have this orchid for a lot of years. Not a decade, but maybe 4 years for sure I have it, and it blooms without fail. It's one of those Brassocattleya hybrids that blooms multiple times a year, regularly. I don't have much setback on this orchid. She's a very strong individual, very strong hybrid. Now she's also a color changer, and I tried to capture in footage this year the color change. When the flowers open, they are a little bit more purpley, and as they age, they become more golden. The spots add a very beautiful accent to the flowers, and as for fragrance, it's not the most fragrant orchid that I have, but being that it's a Brassocattleya hybrid, it does have a beautiful, I will not say soapy as I usually do. It has a sunscreen, let's say, fragrance during nighttime. It's not very powerful, definitely if you compare it to a pure Brassocattleya, not even close. So if you have issues with fragrance, maybe this is a good option for you. Maybe you could tolerate this one. It's not very fragrant, but typically Brassocattleya's and many of their hybrids have a sunscreen type of a fragrance, more elevated in my opinion. I think it's absolutely beautiful if you can handle fragrance, and most of the times Brassocattleya hybrids are easy to grow even if you don't have perfect Cattleya conditions, even if you don't have very bright light, they can do okay. I personally grow, I guess 99% of my Brassocattleya's under grow lights, but I think any LED lights will do, to be fully honest, and I have no issue. It is not a very small orchid, but not a very big orchid either. I think it measures about 40 centimeters in height, including the pot, so do keep that in mind. It might not be the most versatile orchid, but it is a very reliable bloomer. Next up, another oldie but goldie. See what I did there? Procatavola Golden Peacock. This one is even older in my collection. I think I should actually go back in history, if I can, go back in the archive of my videos and try to date all of my orchids. This one for sure, I have it for 5 years. I do believe. It's again one of those beautiful Brassocattleya hybrids which is just vigorous, strong, and blooms all of the time. You can see some resemblance in the flowers. It has that beautiful, what I like to call star-shaped flower. This one again is a golden or orangey color because it has the Encyclia vitellina in its parentage, which I don't own, but I want to buy. The first occasion that I have, I will buy because I love orange. This one is just much easier to grow than the vitellina because of the Brassocattleya parentage. So just like the Hoku gem, this one takes typical Cattleya care, doesn't actually need as much light as some Cattleyas. She will not fuss if you don't have very warm conditions. I think it's one of the easier, let's say, Cattleya type orchids, and it's very robust, blooms multiple times a year. Again, fragrance, not the best fragrance, but in the morning I detect a little bit of a Brassocattleya scent to it. So she does put out something, a little bit of a scent in the night, but nothing that will kick you out of the room like my Brassocattleya cucullata is right now. She has 2 flowers and I can sense her from 2 meters or 3 meters away. No, these guys are not that fragrant, which might be a good thing, but just take a look at those flowers. I think I do have some spotlights on these orchids. Check the description and you'll see as I post them, I will share them with you. But for now, I think I bored you enough with the Golden Peacock because I talk about it a lot. Every time it blooms, every few months, I show it off. I feel like I bored you with this one in particular. But if you want to be bored by an orchid in the good way, yeah, I would definitely recommend this one. She is gorgeous and she blooms many times a year. Next up, another first time bloomer for me and for it as well. And yeah, the blooming is not the best this year because I had a lot of ants and a lot of mealybugs on this orchid. good news, I fixed the ants issue. Woohoo! We're gonna make a short video on it. But anyway, you can see all of these pests took a toll on the flowers. The upper flower is pretty damaged. The lower flower looks a little bit better. The coloration is not that good. I have a lot of color break. I don't believe it is the virus. I believe it is the presence of the pests on this orchid. It was in bloom at the beginning of the month. So yeah, I'm not going to do a spotlight or anything on it, just showing it to you because it is wonderful. I didn't tell you the name. This is the Brassocattleya Jairak Kiku, and I purchased this one about a couple of years ago, but I managed to set it back very bad, like very, very, very bad. So for 2 years, it just worked on putting out bigger and bigger growth. And for the first time, it bloomed this year. And the blooms, you know, even if they're damaged, they're wonderful, they are fragrant. This one is indeed fragrant, but to my surprise, it is not scented as a Brassocattleya, which is weird because the parentage, if you see it, it's Leomesezia 50% and 2 other Brassocattleya's that together make 50%. So it should smell in the nighttime like a Brassocattleya. Mine smelled in the daytime and it was kind of sweet, more like a typical Cattleya than a Brassocattleya. Cattleyas usually have sweet floral scents, so being that the flowers were damaged, I'm not going to insist much on the fragrance. I will have to let it bloom again to give you a proper description of the scent, but anyway, it was indeed surprising when it came to scent. And it's pink, as you can see, but I do believe the pattern and color is not what it can be. It's not blooming to its full potential, but I did wanted to show you to you guys because I've been looking forward for this orchid for a lot of time, and I've been not struggling, but I've been patient with it for a long time, and from now on, yeah, I will never damage its roots again because she's not as vigorous. Maybe she will be from now on, but definitely compared to the other 2 Brassocattleya hybrids, this one is a little bit finickier. But she is absolutely gorgeous. The flowers are big, almost as big as my palm, and I can imagine future blooms will be absolutely beautiful. Next up, here we go, a Zygopetallum. This is Rosy Blue, or at least this is what the tag said. And this particular Zygopetallum is very, very fragrant. There are some Zygopetallums that smell like hyacinths or lilies. I absolutely adore those, but I was on the lookout for one of them for a long time because it seems to me like the more recent hybrids that I find on the market, in flower shops by the way, not necessarily in orchid nurseries, they're not as fragrant. I don't know, maybe they selected hybrids that looked better or were bigger or were more vigorous, but the fragrance I think lacks from many of the flower shop Zygopetallums nowadays, or at least in my area. This particular one that came with the tag Rosy Blue, which, you know what, I don't vouch for. Rosy Blue looks a little different on the internet if you look for it, but yeah, that was what's on the tag. So this particular one has the most beautiful hyacinth lily-like fragrance. I really, really, really like it. Currently, I'm doing pretty okay with my Zygopetallums. I could do better because I don't have enough light for them where I have them. I personally grow them best either in a soil mixture, either in sphagnum moss, either in a very water-retentive mixture. Bark does not do well for me with them, and they're still not the best performers, but I'm happy to say that they're not my nemesis anymore. I can grow Zygopetallums and I can bloom them. They're just not probably the most ideal orchids for me due to the temperature, but I can get away with the hybrids. And I'm very happy because the fragrance of some Zygopetallums is one of the best in the orchid world, in my opinion. And this particular one has that fragrance that I've been looking for. Next up, and I think this is the last orchid for this month, Howeara, currently Leomesezia, Lava Burst, variety Puanani. Do you remember I was bragging to you guys about the fact that it has so many flower spikes, and considering how beautiful and long the flower spikes were in the past, I'm gonna have the most amazing show of life this year? Well, no, it did not happen. The flower spikes are actually very short compared to what this orchid can put out, and I know why. Because I recently repotted it as the growths were maturing, and some of the growths were even showing some flower spikes. I thought, yeah, she's gonna get over it. She's strong. She is now strong. Generally speaking, this orchid is not the strongest unless you have a good water retentive medium for it, and I struggled for 2 years with it. It's an orchid that is about 7 years old in my collection, to be fully honest, and I struggled so much with it to bring it to this state, and it can do better than this. But yeah, I repotted it recently because it needed more roots in the pot, and it took a little bit of a toll on it. The flower spikes can be much longer than this, but hey, there's next year to look forward to. What I wanted to show you this year compared to some other flowerings is the color of the flowers. I received a comment asking me, why is my lava burst so red when theirs is not all that vivid red? Well, it has to do with temperature. This is a summer blooming that I have here, and the summer was very extended. It is still hot to this day, 32 degrees Celsius at almost November. It's not good. Anyway, so orchids that have red colorations typically have a lot of anthocyanin, and in my experience with quite a few orchids, anthocyanin pigments are stronger, bolder, and more compact, let's say, in lower temperatures. Think Cattleya, Hawaiian Splash Leia, think Oncidopsis nellieither. In warm temperatures, I find that some orchids just don't have the most vivid red coloration, with the exception of many Cattleyas because they're hot growing orchids, and of course many Vandas, which are hot growing orchids. But especially with Oncidiums, I find that in cooler temperatures they do look much better. Also take into account the stress factor. So an orchid will not show maybe full coloration if it is a little stressed. This one had two things going for it. It was a bit stressed due to the repotting, not enough to set it back, but enough to make the flower spikes shorter. Maybe that affected the coloration as well. And also it was very hot for a lot of time this year, and I do believe that had an impact on the coloration of the flowers as well. And if you look at the flowers, you can see a lot of lacing, I like to call it. Those let's say paler breaks in the coloration reminds me a lot of the Oncidopsis nellieither, and this one is in the Oncidium alliance as well. So I do believe it has to do with temperature or with stress if you have one of these orchids and it's not, you know, that intense red that I show you in my videos typically. I went back in my archive. Every time this orchid put out flowers that were so red, it was already cooler. It was autumn or winter or spring. Well, now it was full summer when it bloomed because that's what it decided to do, and this is the result. So yeah, that's why I think lava burst can sometimes look a little bit more washed out, but don't worry about it. Hang on to it. It can actually bloom in cooler months as well. It can bloom multiple times a year, so I do believe it will look better once it's more established and it will bloom in lower temperatures. And that is about it for this month. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out the description for more details, tutorials, and all of that good stuff. And I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Let me know in a comment which one was your favorite this month. And I do believe, I'm hoping next month, I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do with all of these comments you guys leave me about your favorite orchids. So yeah, let me know in a comment which is your favorite this month. And with that said, I hope you have a great day, and I hope this video helped you choose your next orchid. And with that said, I'll see you next time. Bye!